All right. We are live, and our apologies to anyone that was trying to tune in at 6 o'clock. I was having some kind of technical problem with my speakers. I have not hosted the technical end of our reading circle since last year. Leonie's been doing it, and so I'm rusty, and Leonie is not here tonight. And but I actually, we're using StreamYard. I don't think it was the StreamYard issue. I think it was just something going on with my speakers and getting them connected. So anyway, we are here. We can now hear each other, and that is wonderful. Let's go ahead and get started, because I did hear at one point, Kim, you saying that you don't have long to be with us. And
no, I'm here all night.
I am expecting.
I'm fine.
Oh, you're here all night? Oh, okay, good. I am expecting Nicole, but she told me she'll probably be a little bit late. So welcome everyone to Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. I'm Logan Michelle Odom. I'm located in Brooklyn, New York. Kim?
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. I'm in New York and looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. Venita?
Hello, everyone. My name is Venita. I'm joining you from Cromwell, Connecticut.
Hi. Haven't seen you in a long time. And Gio?
And good evening, everyone. I'm Georgette, and I'm joining this from Columbia, South Carolina. Here's my book.
All right. And yeah, we are reading this bridge called My Back, Writings by Radical Women of Color. Most of us have the 4th edition. Kim has the 1st edition that was published in 1981, and this 4th edition came out in 2015. It's edited by Cherríe Moraga and Gloria Anzaldúa. It includes essays and poetry and letters, and this 4th edition, Kim, has artwork in it.
Ooh.
And so we are pretty well down the line with this book. We're in session 13 of the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle, meaning this is the 13th book that we are reading together publicly. Oh, Venita just told me my voice is breaking up a lot. I seem to have a really weak internet connection going on. The only other open page, so I hope that helps. Is that any better?
Mm-hmm. A little bit.
There's something else.
Yeah, it's a slow connection I have going on. I you know, when I stop talking, I'll see if there's something I can do in the settings. But anyway, it's the 13th book that we're reading together as a reading circle. And I don't know when we started reading this book, a couple of months ago, I guess, but we continue through July 21st. So we just have a couple of weeks left with this book. And we do not have a facilitator for next week. So I'm thinking we can just have that as an open book, you know, everybody come with your favorite passages, and we'll just work off the cuff. And then the final week, July 21st, is your week, Kim, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking that because I don't have the 4th edition, that maybe I should go next week, and then then the 21st is when we can talk about the 2 editions, because I don't have the 4th edition, and I think that on the 21st we look at the 4th edition. Am I mistaken?
Okay.
But if you don't mind me.
Yeah, I mean, No, it's fine. It's fine.
I could do either way.
I mean,
I'm
the first edition.
Right. So we can leave it as it is, and then people with the 4th edition will speak up in terms of that, and I can talk to my old book here. So I could go either way.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things about this edition is that it includes the preface to all of the previous editions. And so the only thing I really noticed that is maybe is a difference is the artwork. This one includes maybe about 15 pieces of art related to the reading materials, and none of the other editions had that.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, all right. What else do we need to do? Let me see.
So our decision is that we leave things as they are. I'm just trying to get a sense.
Yeah, let's do that. I don't think it makes a difference. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so I'll go ahead and read the summary. Can you hear me a little better?
Yes, a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm on the summary. Wait a minute. Let me adjust my windows a little. There's kind of a to paying attention to what you're reading and talking about and moving the camera around. So I'm going to try to get myself back up to speed. Am I back here?
Yeah, you're back.
Hello? I'm back? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to read the summary. Tonight we continue our reflections on part 5, Speaking in Tongues, the third world woman writer of this bridge called My Back, Writings by Radical Women of Color, 4th edition, edited by Cherríe Moraga and Gloria Anzaldúa. In this part of the book, third world women of color writers claim and reclaim their tongues through the power of the pen and begin a process of establishing criteria and standards of literary criticism for viewing this work. Part 5 includes the story of Millicent Fredericks by Gabrielle Daniels. Fredericks was a housemaid to the white woman writer Nin. Though Nin wanted to write Fredericks' story, the gulf in the lives of these women was unbridgeable. Nellie Wong writes of what compels her to write in Search of the Self as Hero. Wong is compelled by the passion and urgency flowing through her and the belief that her views as an Asian American have as much validity as anyone else's, despite the criticism women writers receive of personal. After all, what is art and what is not art? Deconstructing the mythology surrounding the historical and mythological figure Malintzin was the challenge Norma Alarcón gave herself in Chicana's feminist literature. Malintzin was the slave, lover, translator, guide, and advisor to Hernan Cortes, the Spanish conquistador who conquered the Aztec Empire in 1521 and claimed Mexico for Spain. Alarcón uses traditional and contemporary works to point to the ways in which patriarchal Chicano culture has used a hatred of women as justification for demanding obedience, humility, and allegiance, and how modern Chicana feminist literature seeks to claim Malintzin's image. Part 5 concludes with Chrystos offering beautiful imagery to those who have made a circle with her in ceremony for completing a poetry reading. When my hands are empty, I will be full, she finds. Having expelled much of the anger and hurt that separates women, and having found the voice of third world women of color, contributing Part 6, El Mundo Zurdo, turn their sights to the necessity of working together toward a common revolutionary vision. We, the women here, take a trip back into the self, travel to the deep core of our roots to discover and reclaim our colored souls, our rituals, our religion, we learn from editors Cherríe Moraga and Gloria Anzaldúa. We reach a spirituality, they continue, that has been hidden in the hearts of oppressed people under layers of centuries of traditional God worship. It emerges from under the veils of La Virgen de Guadalupe and unrolls from Yamaya's ocean waves whenever we need to be uplifted from or need the courage to face the tribulations of a racist, patriarchal world where there is no relief. Part 6 begins with Chrystos demanding the life she was meant to have, insisting on it from the Malmama spirit in Give Me Back. In La Prieta, Gloria Anzaldúa uses the sources of her pain rooted in her family and childhood, including sexism, racism, poverty, and violence, to trace the path she traveled to reach her current vision of the world. And Anzaldúa believes radical revolutionary change is needed to rebalance the world. And those of us connected by the ways in which we do not fit the dominant oppressive white male culture can together be the force needed to make change. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's start with the ring. Of course, of course I have much too much. So who wants to read question 2?
Okay, I'll read that.
Okay, Gia.
Okay. Millicent was cast as the evil opponent of her people in a family quarrel, where many male members often prefer to see her as the mother whore, bearer of illegitimate children, responsible for the foreign Spanish invasion, and where female members attempt to restore balance. The myth surrounding Millicent is about betrayal, first seen in her sexuality, and locates the vagina as the supreme site of evil until proven innocent by way of virginity or virtue. Just wondering, did your parents wish for boy or girl children? How did they express attitudes toward the gender of their children? What did you learn about where those views came from in your family?
All right. Thank you. Anybody?
Well, I don't know what she wished for, but I know she sure did dote on my brother. Okay, he was the only boy.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many siblings do you have?
3. Well, of course, my sister is passed now, but he was the oldest. He was the boy, and even though he was kind of rambunctious and got in a bunch of trouble before he went into the Marines, he was the apple of her eye. So, and I don't know, I can't say where perhaps, being from the South, the traditional, place of honor is that son, right? Because the family name, the Christian, mythology, if I could say that, of the son being what the family is built on, and then female children or female members of the family being the support, the backup singers, as it were. So even though in reality we know that that feminine power that still undergirds everything and keeps it moving, right? Still hope for that.
Yeah.
We're gonna support you, brother. We support you. So that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I think in my house, the daughters were the backup singers also. I love that, Gio. I just love that. It just describes our position so well. We were responsible for the house, keeping the house. We did more chores than the boys if they had any. And then if something good happened, the boys got it first. And so my mother had all sisters. She didn't have any brothers. So I didn't know if some of it may have come from that. But my father wasn't as much fond of the boys. He seemed to treat everybody fairly. So yeah, I think my mother, she loved some boys. She loved herself some boys.
Yeah.
Chua?
Yeah. Venita?
The youngest in my family is the only boy. And I think I doted over him because I'm so much older than him. I'm like 10 years older than him. And he was like a real live doll or something, Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the reason why I doted. It was no other reason except that I was 10 years older than him. And I used to put him in his baby carriage and dump him out and wash him and dress him and put fingernail polish on him. And it was cool. I don't find that he was treated too much different. Well, actually, I think he was. David had debilitating allergies, so he's having shots for actually really, I might be debilitating, I mean terrible since he was an infant. So he was sick quite often, although he's a big guy. He's 6'4", he's huge now. But I do remember that the only thing I remember him doing was putting out the garbage. I honestly don't remember him doing anything else.
Mm-hmm.
He got older, but then also too, you have to realize that a lot of his life I wasn't there to see a lot because of the age difference. But I just remember, maybe putting out the garbage, but I don't really remember like cleaning a bathroom, doing the kitchen floor, making food. Like we were expected to do that. to clean the house and do things, but I don't remember those expectations. But I do remember him putting out the garbage.
Yeah.
And then if he forgot, then I would put it out. Somebody else would put it out. So it's not like he did much. But the actual doting where I felt less than, or like I felt like I didn't have attention, I didn't feel that. Or maybe it's there, I just didn't pay attention. I was pretty happy-go-lucky. So, things has been like over my head. So maybe I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
And that might be a good thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just think I was just really happy-go-lucky, and I just never really, it would have to be like right in my face for me to like notice most things because it's just so important. I'm on to the next thing. I don't have time to like focus on. So I think that's probably, maybe it did. I didn't know. But I didn't really feel that way. So I think if it was there, I would have felt that. Like, he was treated superior, or I was treated inferior, or, I didn't notice that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you all have heard my stories of having 3 brothers. And I was the only girl. That's actually a pattern that plays out in multiple generations of my family. My grandmother on my mother's side had 3 brothers. A great grandmother had 3 brothers. So, but I definitely noticed gender differences, in the, at least as far as the kinds of roles or chores we were expected to do. My brothers didn't do much more than take out the trash. Every once in a while, they might be asked to mop a floor. But I was like the beast of burden. But my parents, they were both kind of too, they were kind of modern. So they had sense enough to not openly express a preference for a girl or a boy. But I think I was my father's favorite, and I think that my brothers, my mother related more to them, than me. So, yeah. So it didn't leave me with a complex, I guess. I was hesitating because I was just thinking about, there's this new book out now by Donald's niece. And he had daddy issues.
Yes. I got a secret to tell you all.
Yeah.
A real big secret.
I'm sorry, the new book is by who?
It's his
Donald
niece.
Donald's niece.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go right ahead, Venita.
Yeah. And
I pre-ordered that book. I don't know why, but something just came. Normally I would not read that, and I feel like so shame. But I just felt shame, and I wasn't going to tell anyone because I was hoping somebody would mention it. But I feel guilty for Michelle because it's shameful. But
yes.
I don't know what came over me. I didn't even tell Michelle.
You can tell me all about it.
It's like watching a reality show or something. That's maybe your naughty thing that you don't tell nobody about. So I'm like, I pre-ordered that book. I had no choice. I just had no choice.
Yeah, well, some of the reporters have, they have the pre-order, or they have copies already, so they're starting to share the dirt. And
Yes.
you know, and one of the things that she's saying is, you know, I mean, we know he's a sociopath. We didn't need a book to figure that out. But
Right.
she's a psychiatrist or psychologist or something.
Yeah.
And so she talks about his daddy issues, and he was a cheater, had to pay people to take his SAT and whatnot. So,
Well, that's obvious.
Sure, we're gonna hear more about that. So yeah, but my point is that there very often are things that happen in our childhood that leave deep wounds. And some of it comes from the belief systems, that our parents have. I mean, I don't think it's a Southern thing either, Gio, because these kind of gender casts, show up around the world. So, anyway, let's go on to the next question, 5. Who's got question 5?
I gotta find it first. I'm on my phone trying to read it.
Don't everybody jump at once.
I can't see it well on my phone. I'm using my phone, so.
You feel like reading, Kim?
Yeah, I can read, but that's like a book.
I didn't say anything, I was trying to think about it all.
I could make it bigger.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. When we don't participate in creating our own defined identity and reality as women, when the material and spiritual realities do not reflect us as contributors to the shaping of the world, we may feel, as in Judy Lacero's poem, I speak in an illusion, Norma Alarcón. So much is going on in the news these days. It's hard not to see ways to connect current events to these writings first published in 1981. For instance, on the issue of removing statues and other symbols of genocide and the Confederacy, Donald has really got his panties in a bunch. As we meet here tonight, there's a growing danger that threatens every blessing our ancestors fought so hard for. Our nation is witnessing a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children. Those who seek to erase our heritage want Americans to forget our pride and our great dignity so that we can no longer understand ourselves or America's destiny. They would tear down the beliefs, culture, and identity that have made America the most vibrant and tolerant society in the history of the earth. Mount Rushmore will stand forever as an eternal tribute to our forefathers and to our freedom. See, Trump uses Mount Rushmore address to rail against removal of monuments. Please read Lacero's poem, I Speak in an Illusion, on page 187. And let's figure out, are we living in an illusion or is Donald having another delusion? And so 187.
Yeah, well, it might be different in your book, but
Right.
it's a part of Norma Alarcón's Chicano feminist literature.
Okay, it's on 188 for me. I speak in an
Oh, good.
illusion. I speak, but only in an illusion, for I see and I don't. It's me and it's not. I hear and I don't. These illusions belong to me. I stole them from another. Care to spend a day in my house of death. Look at my garden. Are you amazed? No trees, no flowers, no grass, no gardens. I love and I don't. I hate and I don't. I sing and I don't. I live and I don't. For I am a room of clouded smoke and perfume odor. Nowhere can I go and break these bonds, which have me in an illusion, but the bonds are real.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is where Alarcón is calling on Hegel and looking at the need for there to be a match, a congruence between what's happening in the real world versus kind of what's going on in the imaginary world. And so as I think about the protesters who are tearing down statues, all over the world, it feels like that effort to create symmetry, to create reality, to create congruence in, well, you say we're equal, you say we're citizens, we're written into the laws and whatnot. We have our civil rights, and yet there are all these disparities in how Black people are treated in many countries around the world compared to white people. And you say that the North won the Civil War, but you continue these monuments to the losers. So it's like a dissonance, cognitive dissonance going on. And so I think that the people that are trying to bring down the monuments are trying to create symmetry. But apparently Donald Trump sees it differently. And his whole speech, that the two speeches on July 4th weekend were, just incredibly horrific. So I just wanted us to chat a little bit. Are we the ones having illusion? Or is Donald having another delusion? Anybody?
I think some quote from the book that really defines this current event here on page 187 or 188 for Kim, right under the poem, it says, feminism is a way of saying that nothing in patriarchy truly reflects women unless we accept distortions, mythic and historical. And so I think this moment in time, we have a whole group of Americans who are accepting a distortion of mythic and of the mythic and historical, because they want to believe this. Because to believe anything else, to value any other person or people's vision of themselves, or even the facts as they occurred chronologically, world history, the history of this country, the history of the civilizations that existed in this land before they decided to come over here and misappropriate the resources, is they can't grasp it. It doesn't coincide with the image that they feel comfortable with, right? Of this country as, pristine, the result of manifest destiny, despite all the blood that soaks the land. They still don't get it. And wow, you want this rag, this piece of cloth to represent something that is not true. You've created an identity for yourselves at the expense of other people, of other human beings, not savages, not soulless individuals, because that's what keeps you comfortable with what happened to them. Saying that, well, they don't believe in the same God that I worship. I am somehow especially blessed, and that's why we have this land. No, you have this land because people died. It was taken from them. And no matter how far they pushed them onto smaller and smaller sections of land, if there was any value under their feet, you came and you took it from them. So, how can you have pride in that unless you lie to yourself? And then you continue to teach that lie generation after generation, and all your textbooks reflect that, and all your doctored and what do they call it? Revisionist history. Okay, academic courses, reflect that, because if you don't reflect that, then you have to take a really deep look at yourself and what you believe in, and also your God that you worship, that you say condoned your manifest destiny. Okay, it requires deep reflection, and then I want to say mutation or transcendence, of the illusion. You have to break the illusion and really accept what the situation is if you wish to go forward. Because why I asked myself this question after I watched a video last night about the Sand Creek Massacre in Colorado during the Civil War. Why does this country continue to not be able to sustain peace? It's because the land is crying out the blood of people who've been murdered mercilessly, mutilated, spiritually and physically, cries out. How can you have peace if it was created on violence, continuous violence? Not only violence to other people, other ethnicities, but also your own folks, okay?
Right.
Grief. When does it stop? When will it stop?
Yeah. Thank you. I agree totally.
Well said.
Anybody else?
Well, I guess just to add to what Gio was saying, that the first settlers were forced to come here for one reason or another, and so there is this violence and criminality of the first people who came here, that they were already prone to violence and being criminals. And so when this myth started to appear that, France gives us the Statue of Liberty and all of a sudden we're supposed to be something that we're not. You could start, I think for me, looking at the origins of the myth of America is interesting. And so I love when you talk about looking at the school books and looking at the revisionist history. Then you can kind of say, oh, this is when this story started, and we got further and further and further away from, reality. And how uncomfortable it was to sit in the reality, but how wonderful, delightful, and joyful it was to sit in the power of that same reality, but you didn't want to have your hands bloodied in public. You didn't mind them being bloody in private. You reveled in it, but you didn't want them bloody in print. Because I do think that there is a level of enjoying the fact that so many people were massacred and conquered, that this country refuses to go outside and shout and dance and say, we are big ass bullies and we did this. And we damn proud of it.
Right. Right. Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say one other thing. When I was reading this, I was looking at the personalized illusions that here we are, especially as Black women, always the ones doing some level of activism, always the ones sacrificing something for civil rights, the cause, the family. But then in our families, we are not centered. We're second-class citizens sometimes. And that's worth a discussion too, to figure out how to start to unbraid that and start to make sure that we are taking better care of our girls ourselves. So that some cute little boy comes along in the family, his station isn't higher than the girl child. Because I still see that today, that, we just and when I say we, I mean some of us, because I don't know what's happening in everybody's family, but I think some of us tend to just be so happy that there's a boy child somewhere, stepping over the girl to get to that boy child. And then we're not going to talk about colorism. So I think that we need to clean our own homes. Those of us whose homes need cleaning, because there you got some phenomenal sisters and families out there, and I don't want to discount them. But I do think that Black lives need to be honored and built up, and a light shine on them in our own homes. Because when you talk to Black women and you find out how many have been abused in the home, something has to be looked at and investigated in terms of how is it that so many of us are so scarred in our mothers' houses. There's just too many. I could see even if it's only a third of us, that's too many. And our goal should be to get that down to almost nothing.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at with the first question about boys and girls, Kim. Because I think it's just really important to examine where our beliefs come from. You couldn't whip my ass just because I don't believe I deserve it. I don't care what I did. I don't believe I deserve it. And so it just makes me wonder, both what the man who thinks he can beat up on somebody, what he believes, about what his rights are, and the woman who takes it. And I know it's more complex than that, and I know we have, you know, homosexual couples that have the same kinds of power dynamics and all of that, but just, you know, just whatever the genders are, what is it that makes one person think they can beat up on somebody else, and what is it that allows those people being beat up to accept it multiple times? I mean, one time, you know, okay, but then again, you know, you know, and that's why it is so painful for me, watching Donald in action. And you know, it's probably just a big joke for him. He's just a big bully. You know, he just wants to play at getting elected again. And, you know, he doesn't care who he hurts. But the arrogance of just kind of going around the world and finding people that you perceive are weaker than you and thinking of ways to hurt them. What, you know, I just want to say, who do you think you are? What do you believe about your rights on this earth compared to everybody else? You know, it's some sick stuff going on.
I think if you believe you are a conqueror.
Venita. Yeah.
I can parallel Donald's life with the privileges that he believes he has to even a woman that is being abused over and over again. If that's what, you know, it's so many family dynamics, but it might be what she's used to seeing when she's growing up with her mother, that she's subservient, you know, and part of being subservient is taking anything and everything from your husband or your spouse, or whether it's the same sex, since I have to be politically correct and include everyone, no matter what the relationship is. And I think it's the same way with Donald. He's grown up, and I find that with most narcissistic folks, and he's narcissistic and a sociopath, but when you've grown up and you've had people that's stroking you, you've had no one to stop you, no one that attempted to stop you, then after a while it becomes a matter of fact, how could he not feel like he can do anything he wants to? Because there's no one to stop him. No one's attempted to stop him. He told us early on that he can kill somebody in the middle of Manhattan and nothing would happen.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you know, I have a family member, and I won't get too personal because this is public, and I don't want everyone to know, but it's a narcissist. And he grew up with a lot of women around him. His mother was the eldest of 12, 11 which were females. The youngest was a male. He grew up around, well, my grandmother's American Indian, Cherokee, and my grandfather was a Mediterranean, great-grandfather. So, but I know why he's a narcissist. I've even heard it from his mother. You know, like my grandmother, you know, he could never do any wrong. He's God's gift to the world. Whether it's God's gift to, you know, you got to be glad that you are able to grace his presence. So as usual, I'm always the outlier in the family, which is why I don't think the way a lot of folks think in the family, because I've always thought it was crazy from the time I could look at crazy. But that's why he's the person he is. I know that's why he's the person he is. He could stand there and kill somebody, and she would say, "Not my Johnny." You know, he might have no, I mean, he might have killed him, but he killed him kind of gently, so it really wasn't that bad. But it's still, I still think that's my Johnny, because my Johnny is the most intelligent, handsomest God's gift to the world that the world ever had and accepted, and you need to be glad. So those kinds of people are created. They're not born that way.
Yeah.
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 They're created. So I can parallel that to a woman that's being abused, and you say, well, why she allows a man to hit her 2 or 3 times. Well, she's been raised in a house with a matriarch that feels though she, her job is to, as they said in one passage, love gets confused with devotion, and which gets confused with control. Then what else do you know?
Right.
I mean, back in the 70s, women were a lot of women were really becoming more educated, and your next challenge after getting education was to see if you can keep a man. I heard those things in my own 2 ears. That was the mission.
Mm-hmm.
You could even hear in the music, "My man, you messing with my man. You're taking my man. I had to get my man from Geraldine down the street." I mean, so it's just easy to see these things happening. So that's what I observed.
Can I just
Thank
add something, Venita? When the example you gave of the narcissist, I've seen it where when that same narcissist goes out into the world and gets his ass beat, then when he comes home and is turned into the prince of all things, all of a sudden you get like this whole other layer of craziness, because he knows deep down that he is less than, because somewhere he needs to have some place where he is in full control, because the world is going to kick his behind. So I'm just saying that's this whole other layer, that all of a sudden the people who are closest to you, you start to oppress them if they're not already giving you everything you need. Because it becomes that much more important for you when you are at home to be the king of the docile or the queen of the home. And that's what I've seen, that all of a sudden you see these people that are just such punks in the world, and then they go home or they with their wife and they're hitting them and they're so crazy. So sometimes the narcissist on the flip side is this weakness.
Yeah.
Low self-esteem and narcissism are buddies.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying those two ride along together. I'm sorry?
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of dimensions. It's probably too many for us to mention this evening, but there are a lot of dimensions, because all aren't violent. All narcissists are not violent. Not violent physically. They're mentally violent.
That's right.
It just depends on what you're dealing with. Anyways, back at the ranch.
And like they said in this book, some of them are, like there was one line that I found chilling, that it says, all it takes is a simple refusal on the part of a woman for you to abuse them. One guy was saying that's all it takes is a simple refusal from a woman, and then I will abuse them. That's the book I want to read. I want to read the narcissist book, the one that says, this is how crazy my mind works.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty chilling line. It's right here, I think. Let me see.
Was that talking about the macho woman? Referring to the macho woman?
Yeah, I remember when I read that line, what I was thinking about, Kim, was this is where he's trying to say to women that if they want to be treated decently and fairly and etc., that they should talk to men with grace and humility and dignity, it's just such outrageous stuff. I do want to say though that, again, this is a 1981 book. I do think that women we've come a long way, baby, since 1981. These problems obviously still exist. But I definitely believe many women are in a different place, and quite a few men as well. I believe there's been some real change. Donald is some kind of throwback, I'm not sure, I'm not sure to what, Neanderthals. I don't know what, but he's special. But no, but there are a lot of people though that have real mental health issues, even today, maybe even more so today. And that's what concerns me about seeing him with the bully pulpit that he commands, because I think that this business of twisting reality is really dangerous stuff. And, and I went through a period where there were some people that were telling, really fantastic, horrible lies about me. And I kind of dismissed it because I felt like, well, anybody that really knows me couldn't possibly believe that madness, until I started learning that they believed that madness. And so that's what has me, a little bit scared right now. I know that intelligent people who have even a slight grasp of history, are not going to be manipulated into believing the delusion I believe Donald is having. But I'm also sure there's this other group of people that's buying the whole pot, just as he presents it, and that's pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Are you referring to almost the entire Republican Congress? Because I think they're dead. I haven't heard from them in almost 4 years.
You said it.
And I don't think it's because Donald is. I don't think it's because he's bullying them. I believe that Donald is just a puppet. He's a clown that was put in there for a specific reason. I think the real damage is being done not by Donald, but what's going on in the background.
Yes.
Donald's there as a distraction. That's all he is. He's a clown. He's not intelligent. He's ignorant. And they just chose him to be in the front while they do all the damage in the background.
Absolutely.
So while people concentrate on Donald, the real damage is being done every minute and every hour of the day in the background.
That's right.
And this is why they say silence is what you have to worry about. Not Donald. You have to worry about the quiet ones, like the whole damn Republican Congress.
Yeah.
And all their people.
And the complicit Democrats, don't forget them.
Well, no. Well, yeah, the complacent Democrats.
Right.
I mean, to be honest with you, one old white man is no different than the other, as far as I'm concerned. Democrat, Republican, Biden or Donald, all old white men. All old white men with the establishment, one way or the other. So I'm not really keen on either one. But the point is that people are focusing on Donald a lot. And Donald is really not the one that has or can do a lot of damage. The damage is being done every day for the last over 3 years in the background. Donald's just there to be the clown that they want to be,
Yeah, well,
distract us every day with
we have to disagree about that. Just because I believe Donald can do a lot of damage, I don't
Yeah.
disagree that there's all kinds of things that are going on in the background. Clearly, that's true, but that doesn't negate the fact that Donald and Donald alone and the role that he plays in the public imagination is dangerous in and of itself, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should dismiss that in the slightest,
Well, this is not.
you know.
Well, I'm not dismissing it, but
Let's
not
go
new.
on
This is not new. There's always been
to
a
the
topic.
next question. It's another long one. Go ahead.
Can I just make one comment before we do that?
Right.
Can I just make one comment before we move on?
Yeah.
So when we read that sentence, all
Yeah.
it takes is a single refusal on the part of a woman to be abused by us men. You can take out women and put any oppressed name there. So if it was one of the very violent police officers making this statement, he could just say any simple refusal by a black body can cause us to abuse them. Or anybody that's too dark, or anybody that's too old, or anybody that's LGBTQ. And you know what I'm saying? So once you start needing compliance, you need compliance, otherwise you're going to go to abuse. That statement is huge for me. So I just wanted to add that.
It is huge. It absolutely is huge. Okay. All right, I'm going to read question 6 real quick. Let me see. As the histrionics of dominance and control, attempting to figure out just who indeed will be the better macho in the world map, macho politics. Last priority is the quality of our lives as women or the lives of our children, Norma Alarcón. Speaking of macho politics, for the 4th of July, here's what the highly non-presidential misnamed president, aka Agent Orange, had to say. American heroes defeated the Nazis, dethroned the fascists, toppled the communists, saved American values, upheld American principles, and chased down the terrorists to the very ends of the earth. We are now in the process of defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the anarchists, the agitators, the looters, and people who, in many instances, have absolutely no clue what they are doing. That's another quote from Donald. My question to you is, what's going on here? What's the point of such rhetoric? And I also want you to consider the piss poor federal response to coronavirus from the perspective of macho politics. Compare and contrast U.S. coronavirus response to Canada or nations run by women like New Zealand, Germany, Finland, and Taiwan. How is macho politics defining the value of women, children, and all human beings? And what is it about leadership style that helps to determine public health approaches?
Michelle, that's like 8 questions.
So another type of macho, right?
I would love to start with the quote. And when we look at that quote, it is huge and it's so.
Okay.
I'm just surprised that he is so brilliant with his hatred. You know, when you start saying things like, we chase them down, we chase down the terrorists to the very ends of the earth. It just says, whether we were Klansmen or no matter what we did, we hunted people down and we slaughtered them. And now the people that he's saying to, let's look at who we want to kill next, It's the radical left.
Yeah.
You want to kill Marxists. And I like the idea that he's smart enough to use these terms that anybody could fit into. Agitators, looters, people who in many instances have absolutely no clue what they're doing. Let's kill them too. Let's hunt them down to the end of the earth. This is packed. I mean, this is packed with a level of violence and instigating violence that is just unbelievable that it's not being addressed. It's like, I think people are too tired and too worn down to kind of say, you know what, we have to do something about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're pulling down the monuments. This is a monument to pull down.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. But I love the question, so keep writing them, Michelle. I'm just joking with you that they're big bad boys.
Well, you know, these two longer pieces in tonight's reading, the Chicana feminist literature and La Prieta, are just packed with so many stimulating ideas. You know, I was on overload.
Me too.
I understand it.
Yeah. You know, I do, you know, I guess I wasn't thinking about the fact that Leonie wasn't going to be here tonight because, you know, I thought she might be the one to say something about a comparison of Canadian coronavirus response to the US because she's mentioned it before. But there's also a New York Times article, is that shared? Yeah. Called Why Are Elections Doing Better with COVID-19. And so one of the things that it's making the point is that those particular leaders is not necessarily all women because you have some women governors in the U.S. Who are not doing such a great job. But in the countries that have women leaders that are doing well, it seems to be a matter of they have a leadership style that allows them to listen or causes them to listen deeply and to take in diverse points of view, you know, and you know, and how much of what we're reading in this book is about the importance of different points of view. And, you know, and that does seem to be one of the many, but one of the great failures of Donald Trump. He seems to have no capacity for listening. His niece was saying today that she thinks he may have an undiagnosed learning disability. And I would not find that difficult to believe. You know, was
is she being kind by saying that?
How you can? I think so. I think so, Kim.
It's undiagnosed, but it's more than a learning disability.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on. But even if he didn't have all of that going on, you know, having good listening skills, you know, is absent in a lot of people. But it does seem to be one of the key ingredients. I mean, you're a leader, you're not a scientist, you're not a public health professional. You're a politician, you're a reality TV star, you're whatever, but you're not, So how you can even imagine that you would have anything to say about coronavirus that wasn't a direct quote of one of the professionals is just, it's just arrogance beyond belief, arrogance and stupidity.
And the stakes are so high. The stakes are so high.
So, but I clearly, yeah.
You're talking out
and
there.
I think, what is and I think what is really coming out is, and again, it's not just Donald, as Venita was saying, there's all this behind the scenes stuff. There are, it's always a complex situation. I was listening to a podcast today where they were talking about what's involved in getting the kids back to school in September, and not only that, the White House is talking about sending any foreign students back to their country if their university doesn't offer at least some classroom-based classes, So just the whole lack of about people's lives is so painfully evident in this coronavirus response. And, and I don't know how much that is a difference too between men and women. I feel like women, because we have the capacity to bring life into the world, we know how difficult that is. We know how much is involved in that, since we tend to raise the children, we know how much is involved in that. And we know what we lose when we lose a life. And so I think for people who are so willing to destroy life, they just, that's the easy destruction of anything is the easy part, but the construction, the creative, the life-giving is a much more complex situation. So it's just sad to have to witness this.
It sure is.
Macho politics,
isn't it though? Oh boy,
it's traumatic too, because you hear him saying things, and then people who have died based on some bad advice or just him saying whatever off the top of his head. And and now I think that they're undercounting the corona deaths. They're grouping them into heart attack or this or that. And so I think that they really want the country back open at any cost. At any cost. So I don't want to hear no more, increases and stuff. So if we're hearing that there are increases, the increases are probably so much higher.
Right.
And then you have people with no mask on. It's just like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
No.
We live in a capitalistic society.
Yeah.
We were turned to numbers a long time ago, long before Donald Trump got into office.
Yeah.
We might have had a couple of presidents with a little kinder and more gentler. I can't say necessarily because, you know, that females would be more kinder or gentler, because I've known some political females from hell. I think it's just the individual person, actually. But this is no new revelation that
That's right.
you are a number, you are a commodity. They want to open the economy. It's not about you. It's about Wall Street. That's all it's about. It's about the
That's
wealthy making more money. That's it. It has nothing to do whether you eat, whether you have a job and halfway feed yourself or pay a couple bills. They don't give a damn. They really don't. So it's, you know, it's like they look at people as numbers, and numbers you don't have to feel. That's why we have corporations. That's why you have LLCs, so you can separate yourself from humans. And you just look on a piece of paper and add those numbers up. They don't add up. Get your ass out there with COVID-19. You know what I'm saying? It's just so. If Donald was not there, as sick and twisted as he is, if someone else was there, the COVID-19 handling of the illness and deaths might have been handled differently, but ultimately you would still be getting back out there. And there would still be casualties. So unless they find a way to treat this effectively or find a vaccination, the capitalists are not going to allow you to worry about whether you're going to die or not.
Yeah.
Because they got to make their money.
That's right.
Yes.
Who is somebody's in the chat called just a game we play? Is that one of you guys?
No.
Maybe it's somebody on YouTube making a comment.
Yes.
I'm gonna read it to you. I think.
Yes, it is.
I think it's
given, you know.
Oh, okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
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 Oh, okay. 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 On that question.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say,
Georgette, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to address the last question and your big question, which is, what is it about leadership style that helps determine public health approaches? And I think a lot of this reading helped me define what could possibly be the problem here, and that's the need to nurture versus that need to dominate. And as has been mentioned, we have some governors and some leaders of countries who are female who have done well when they include a team around them, a support team that includes many different voices from viewpoints that represent the communities they govern. And they look at where we're trying to go here, bringing as many people along with us as possible, serving the community instead of dominating the community for a specific purpose, capitalism, that like Venita mentioned. And I think when I look at the governors, particularly the governor of, Nevada, who, you know, with backing Trump, she's a Republican, but governor. And I think she fits into that category of a female leader who is embracing the role of that macho lover, right? That devotion and obedience that she has to adhere to so she can be accepted. Yes. You know, she's really bought into the pawnability, and I love that. I love that terminology, you know, that need for acceptance to be seen as part of the dominant group, because that defines who she is. That makes her important. You know, she's, you know, the cheerleader. A viewer has mentioned, you know, she's part of that group that's going to push you over the top because, she's one of the boys. But who is she really? And what's she given up personally,
Right.
To just be included? But they don't, and still not realizing they don't see you. Okay, you're just a cog in that big machine to get what they want. Okay, and if you're not the blonde in the tight dress, because look at all the women that are promoted on Fox News and then around the president, who he gets, his speaker. Why did they always suddenly become blonde? Okay, because that's that image of that macho lover that they have accepted. You're going to support me no matter what, but don't cross the line. Don't get no idea. It's just so, and here we have, and because of that need for acceptance and not to really be an intelligent leader that causes the deaths. If the lives of your people that you're governing are not important, well, then what is important? And they need to vote you or whatever they do to get you the heck out of there because you're killing us.
Right.
And I think that's missing. But and I hear what you're saying, Kim, about the many, many voices that are in support of this genocide. Is there a bigger word than genocide? We're killing everybody. But I'm encouraged by some of the voices, some of the groups, Republicans, veterans, all types of groups who are voicing, their awareness of the insanity that is perpetuating the death of people, not only physically, but financially. Because what are you going to do with all these people in September when the moratorium on rents is over? Not paying rent is over. You have 20,000 homeless people, I think they were talking about just was it New York? What are you going to do with all these people? You already have an overburdened social support system for the homeless who, are suffering from the last time we had a financial crisis. So good grief, if all of us are dead, who's going to pay your taxes? That's all I'm saying. You need to start looking at us as valuable and not just commodities on the stock market, with our birth certificates and all that. So, but that's another conversation.
Thank you, Georgette. I think you're so right in that I had just been following Reverend Barber's Poor People campaign. Mm-hmm. And he had a march online, and I think it went on for 3 or 4 hours of poor people, and that's the language that they were using, talking about how they are barely staying alive. And it was just hours and hours. And so when he started pulling together groups that you never heard were interconnected, so then after the program was over, it was screen loads of all of the groups that do any type of activism that all kind of came together under that umbrella. Mm-hmm. And it was just such a powerful thing to see that, Black Lives Matter and, just one group after another, another Native American groups, Asian groups, just so many groups supporting this effort to say there are more of us than there are of them. So I love the idea of sometimes talking about who's successful, when, and how. Because I do think that there are pockets of people who are just their advocacy, their planning, their strategizing is unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean, you just can't organize the amount of marches that we've seen in the last 6 weeks or so without being powerful.
I know, right? Isn't that just amazing? And then the narrative from the crazy court Trump is that, oh, this is Antifa, this is terrorists.
Yes.
They're coming to take your babies and turn them into communists. Just keep stoking the fear. I have never seen so many online classes for concealed weapons permits in my life. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Okay, on a good day, people who own guns might shoot themselves in the foot. Now you're going to do this online? There's going to be a lot of home accidents, okay? Because a gun is the solution.
Did you all see that video? Did you see that video with the black men down somewhere down south, Clown Country, one of the open carry states?
Yeah. That's the No Fucking Around Coalition.
Was that the Huey B. Newton Gun Carry Club?
Oh, there's the other one. Yeah, that's Huey P. Newton. But
I think
the No Fucking Around had 1,000 people show up at these Confederate sanctions, the sanctuaries, and say, bring your asses out here. Where you at? We're in your house now. What are you going to do?
I got a little kick out of that.
And I felt empowered. And like Joel always says, it ain't no fun when the rabbit got a gun. I'm like, this is it right in your face. It, you hear it on the the radical right underground that they want a race war. Do you really want one? Okay, I don't see you out there, but you're gonna do things under the cover of darkness, right? And snatch wandering, lonely black young fellas and lynch them, but or yell with your gun, in your holster in peaceful protesters' face who only have a sign. Oh, you're really powerful and smart. Okay. But if somebody beats your ass with your gun, that's just
right.
Okay.
That's not so much fun.
No.
I think they are waiting for a mass shooting. They want to just have another Tulsa or another something like that, and why don't you make even the score? Say, okay, black people, here our guns, here your guns. We'll meet you in California on this day at this time. But you want to be under the cover of night and all of this stuff. I just feel like but at the end of the day, this particular passage that we're reading is so powerful because at the end of the day, your beef is not with black people. Your beef is with rich white people, and your punk ass is too afraid to go up against the people who are leaving you and your children in poverty. So you can't go to the dentist the same way I can't go to the dentist, but I'm your problem.
Right.
That's right. That's right. And isn't that the game? If that's the game, it's always been, right?
Who can I blame that I think is weaker than me, who has less power, less voice than I have?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's can you all stay for a couple more minutes since we're getting started? I want us to take a quick look at question 10, just to kind of go in a different direction. Can
we could also thank
somebody
our
read that, please?
Yeah.
Yes. His name is, or her name is Just a Game We Play. Welcome. Let us know if you'd like to be a part of the conversation. Just leave us a note. Who's going to read question 10?
Okay. Every 24 days, raging fevers cooked my brain. Full flowing periods accompanied cramps, tonsillitis, and 105-degree fevers. It's all in your head, they would say. When you get older, and get married and have children, the pain will stop. Whoosh. What kind of bias have you seen in the medical world? Were your health complaints ever dismissed or not taken seriously? Are women and girls still subjected to the kind of medical bias Gloria experienced?
Thank you.
Oh, you will. I would say yes. I would definitely say yes. I'm finding now that, and maybe we've talked about this before, but my health is a business. It's not about, it's just a business. And I have to take full responsibility of what's going on with my health and my body. I think that my mother's generation felt like, oh, go to the doctor, see what's going on, see what's going on. Now it just feels like I need to understand what the cause of certain illnesses are, because when I go to my doctor, sometimes I find that whatever their organization has to offer is what I get. And I find that a physical, I remember physicals used to take an hour. You remember when physicals used to take an hour or more?
Yeah.
And now my physical is 15 minutes. And most of the time when I'm talking to my doctor, he's typing on the computer. He's not even looking at me. So when I said to him, I said, you know, I could come in here with a knife in my back and you wouldn't even notice it.
Right.
He said, no, I'd see it. But I'm not putting him down per se. I'm just saying that he has to see a number of patients a day. He has to prescribe enough medication. It's all these bells and whistles go off when he treats me in a certain way. He makes more money. And so all of a sudden I become the number. I don't know who was talking about me being a number earlier, but that's when I feel like a number the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the insurance companies are also looking at your physicians as a number.
That's right.
Most physicians now aren't private. They don't have solo practices. They work for private companies.
That's right.
Believe it or not. So your insurance company is the one that's actually dictating what he can treat you for, how he can treat you, how long he can spend with you, and how much money he's going to get paid out of the amount that he bills them.
That's right.
The doctors are really caught. I mean, I watch my primary care physician, and we're the same age. I think he's a year younger. I was one of his first patients. They have ran that man in the ground, and he is one of the most noblest humanitarians that you ever want to meet. They have literally ran that man in the ground. It went from 20 minutes to 15. Now you're down to 7 minutes if you're lucky.
Wow.
Your doctor can bill the insurance company $175 for that visit. He gets $70, and $25, $50, depends on what your copay is for you to pay. You know, so it's just like the doctors they have no choice. And I can look at his eyes, and you can look at a good physician's eyes. That's why a lot of the physicians retired. Physicians are leaving the practices early. Whether they're specialists, whether they're primary care physicians, whether they're leaving early because they can't survive. So all the solo practices and private practices are closing, and now they are working for private business. It's privatized, period. So they get a paycheck. So if he's looking at you like a number, not because he necessarily wants to, but they're looking at him as a number. They're dictating what he can do and what he can't.
That's right.
Venita, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that. Because I know that to be true 100%.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's not the way they want it to be. And of course, that's not.
Yeah, but
when a doctor, that's not. Excuse me.
Question and in terms of when this book was published in 1981. That is still the period of the old school Marcus Welby type doctor. Before the age of big HMOs were just kind of starting to come on the scene at that time. And so what Gloria was dealing with in terms of the healthcare that she received as a child is a different phenomena, I think. And I related to Gloria's experience because it reminded me of when I was a little girl, I used to get these really bad stomach aches all the time. And my mother would take me to the doctor, and the doctor would prescribe this nasty liquid green medicine. And I would take it, and it wouldn't help. And then the next time it happened, she would take me back, and we'd go through the cycle. When I was an adult, my mother told me that was a placebo that the doctor was giving me. So of course, one of my first thoughts was, well, if it was a placebo, why did it have to be so nasty? I could just mix up some sugar and water, and at least I could have enjoyed that part of it. But the bottom line is he wasn't doing any work to figure out what the real problem was. He wasn't taking my complaints seriously. And, many, many decades later is when I finally was diagnosed with the liver disease, which is an autoimmune condition. And I don't know if there's a connection, but I wonder if there's a connection. I wonder if all the times it has felt like doctors really weren't hearing me, that is what allowed my body to kind of deteriorate in the way that it did. So I related to Gloria's. And this was also the era, she ended up having a hysterectomy. And so that was also the era that was happening very frequently for women of color. And so, I think in some ways things may be a little better today. We certainly have more women doctors. But as you guys are saying, the doctors are operating in a different type of environment. And so we're still very often not getting good quality medical care.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
I mean, how much medical care can you get in 7 minutes?
okay.
Right.
Huh?
How much medical care can you get in those 7 minutes?
Not much.
Yeah.
And I like what Venita was saying, because I too, my doctor, when I first met him maybe 10 years ago, he was a completely different physician. And everything was holistic, everything was organic. And so you can see that there is a change, that there's this level of pressure and stress on him from his insurance companies and his practice, the whole business of it, that it's different. And so I do notice that also everything is legal. Everything is, whatever you say that they write down, they try to write down as little as possible, because if something happens where it didn't get covered in the 7 minutes and you face your demise, they're liable. So all of a sudden you say, but I told you that I wanted to be screened for X, Y, and Z, and you see that it's no record of it anywhere, because they were not going to do it and not mention to you. So you really have to be your own advocate. Go in with a list of questions, double check, triple check everything. And sometimes I think my doctor appreciates the fact that I always have a list. You know, I say, when the last time we checked such and such? When is the colonoscopy? When is this? When is that? So I make sure I get my physical stuff done.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is my last thing.
It's live.
Now the other thing is his office has become a teaching practice. So now you have these interns coming in to work on you, and they're probably paying money to be an intern. You know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, here's another revenue source, another way of turning me into a number. That people who don't even have their
You have
degree
to pay to be an intern?
I think that what happens is that if you're in some sort of college program, right? There's got to be some handshake between that institution that's going to give you the degree and this medical practice. So somewhere some money's changing hands. You don't just walk up in there and with medical insurance and stuff as it is and say, I'm going to talk to your patients unless somebody's getting paid. And so when I see interns come along, especially in some of these dentists, they don't have their degrees yet. So that's another way where you just go, you're going to work on my teeth and somebody's going to supervise you while you touch me.
Somebody's got to be the guinea pig.
You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, it's a poor state of affairs. Definitely. Okay, any final thoughts, Georgette, Venita? No? Okay. Thank you, everyone. As always, it has been a pleasure. And we said we're going to do open book next week, right? Yeah. So be here. Just we'll be here next Tuesday. We're here every Tuesday while we're in session, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We have 2 more weeks of reading this book. So we'll be here on July 14th and July 21st. So everybody have a good week. Walk in peace, pursue joy, spread love. And I will see you next week reading our story together.
That's right.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.
In the broadcast.